Welcome to Bazza's podcast, brought to you by Barry York from the land down under. We discuss popular culture, history and politics. Our motto is, question everything. In this episode, I'm reading a diary entry from my diary written on the 19th of March 1994. This was when my parents sold the family home in Brunswick, Melbourne. I'd grown up there for 30 years. I'd left in the early 1980s to pursue postgraduate studies in Sydney and eventually settled in Canberra. I felt an enormous sense of separation or loss, of leaving home, leaving my hometown, because my parents had actually sold the family home. I hope it might be of interest. Here it is. What better place to write this farewell than Sydney Road? Admittedly, Sydney Road in Coburg, not Brunswick, but the distinction is no longer so great in my mind. It's 9:20 on a Saturday morning, and I'm sitting in the Walker Arcade's one and only coffee shop. The aroma of cappuccino is strong and welcome, but the thick head of froth is yet to be broken. Tomorrow my mother and her pet cat, Beautiful, fly up to Canberra one way. The houses at 87 and 83A Shamrock Street that the family occupied since 1956 will become memory for us all now, just as they became memory for my father when he made the move 4 years ago. The house at 83A Shamrock Street was sold at auction last month. A school teacher bought it. She got a very good price. Victoria has been experiencing a recession for some time now. Perhaps that's why the excellent cappuccino I'm drinking is only $1.50. In Canberra, it would be $1.80. I'll probably head off on Tuesday. The removalist comes Monday. I lived in Shamrock Street, West Brunswick from 1956 to 1982. How else can I think of myself but as a Brunswick boy? Every part of Brunswick, especially the West, has special meaning for me, despite the changes that have occurred. The strongest and most immediate thought is, strangely, of the back alley system, the labyrinth that only true Brunswegians can negotiate on foot and comprehend. The back alleys represent the immutable underbelly of the suburb. The powers that be can knock down the old houses and build as many blocks of flats as they like. They can rip up creeps and swamplands and replace them with a freeway. They can do all this and more, but the back alleys escape their notice. The recent arrivals, the school teachers, academics, lawyers and other members of the professional classes who can no longer afford the cost of properties in Carlton do not have a clue as to the meaning of the laneways that separate them from their backyard neighbours. Perhaps they drive down them to park their cars, perhaps they even occasionally venture on foot, but the satisfaction of their curiosity can never match the satisfaction of youthful adventurism and secret knowledge that the laneways represented and still represent to me. The alleyways, first and foremost, are a link to the origins of European Australia. They are cobbled with bluestone, just like Pentridge Jail. They are a reminder of a convict past. That is how I see it today, me, the academic historian, in 1994. But as a Brunswick boy, they represent something more specific and more important. The Brunswick alleyway system, in all its chaos and complexity, represents my earliest sense of freedom, of independence from family, of adventure into the unknown, or at least into the mysterious. The back lanes conjured up feelings of excitement and fear, a marvellous combination that I now obtain from horror movies. I could walk those lanes for a full day. They possessed a magical quality, a special beauty lost on outsiders and newcomers. They were a place of discovery, skeletal remains of long-lost pets, disintegrating condoms, dumped rubbish, rusting car parts, mouldy books, old wagon wheel spokes, a handgun. I found them all. The alleyways were a product of human ingenuity in the era before sewerage became a taken-for-granted facet of home life. They were necessary for the sanitary engineers who, in the middle of the night, when such activity could be conducted with undue social offence, would sneak their way along each lane in horse and cart or by motorised truck, and collect each household's binful of excreta. With the advent of suburban sewerage, something which was not completed until the mid-1970s, by the way, the sanitary engineers, their horses and carts, and their motorised vehicles became redundant. They all went, but the laneways remained. Throughout the late 1950s and 1960s, and perhaps the early 1970s, I either strolled or cycled through Brunswick's complex underbelly. It was never boring, and when not motivated by youthful adventurism, was quite meditational. The laneway network had an ecology all of its own. Mice, rats, cats, and tufts of grass seemed in balance with the bluestone cobbles. In changing the environment, human beings create new ecosystems. Nature has never been harmonious or static. It is a process, ever changing. Behind the tall wooden backyard fences that set the parameters of the lane, one could hear and smell the wider ecological system that sustained life in the laneways, the chickens in coops whose grain fed the rats, the elderly women with their strange tastes in music who fed the stray cats, leaving them to grow fat and produce countless other alley cats. People's backyards also contained trees, often gum trees, which overhung the fences and added to the back lane's ambience. There was a particular type of gum tree that was common. It didn't grow too high. It had fine leaves and thousands of tiny green seed pods, which were ball-like in shape and popped when squeezed. They left a sap stain on the thumb and index finger and a distinct aroma. To this day, that aroma unleashes a lifetime of memories for me and is as nostalgic as any old hit parade song or TV show. The alleyways of Brunswick are a thing of beauty. They meander around and throughout the suburbs in unexpected ways, and they rise and fall, often steeply. After a rainfall, they are particularly elegant, with tufts of weed glowingly green against the black-blue backdrop. But it is the cobblestones that possess the beauty, for they glisten in the light. The green weeds highlight the beauty of human creativity, not the other way round. The lanes were a thing of utility and journey for many Brunswegians by day. By night they were the domain of adventurous teenage boys, illegal smokers of cigarettes who roamed in packs seeking maximum impact from their imaginations. We walked for hours after sunset, peering through cracks in back fences in quest of the legendary blonde beauty who, for some reason that we never questioned, was said to dry herself in her backyard after taking a shower at night. We speculated on the history behind the artefacts we found. A large white bone, for instance. Did it once belong to a horse? Or was its origin more sinister? After dark, the lanes were a place of tremendous anticipation and fear. I learned that fear comes in many forms. There was the sudden, externally imposed fear, induced by a dog barking savagely from behind a fence, to be followed by its owner's torchlight. And then there was the slow, agonising fear of the self-induced kind, the fear that arises from tales of alleyway murders and ghosts. The cobbled Bluestone was at its most spectacular on a wet night when the moon was full. The moon reflected its own beauty in the mirror of the alleyway's surface. From my base in the back lane, I speculated on the nature of the moon and the stars. The laneway was firm beneath my feet, but the moon and planets were a zillion miles away, though quickly coming within the reach of human beings. Today, when I return to those alleyways, it is like entering another dimension in which I find myself simultaneously existing within the past and the present. Man has now stepped foot on the moon. Space probes have landed on Mars, and the Viking probe is travelling beyond our solar system. The back alleys of Brunswick, however, stand pretty much as they always have, and I hope they remain that way.